The San Jose Sharks, unofficial, official, whatever you want to call it. The season's here. We're going to talk about the first two games of the rookie face-off. Which guys impressed? Who has already kind of started to make their claim for a potential roster spot? All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at Inside the Rink. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day, and we are back to 5 days a week right now. So we'll be back between now and probably mid-July, putting out new episodes Monday through Friday. And the offseason is over. We are here to talk about Sharks hockey. And what better way to talk about the future of the franchise with the Sharks rookie face-off. So we're going to kind of look at the kind of overarching, big takeaways from the two games. So we had the first game on Friday where the Sharks defeated the LA Kings 4-3 in a shootout. And this was kind of a mostly star-studded roster for the Sharks. And then they also won 5-1 against Vegas on Saturday night with a lot more kind of tryout guys in that game. So we're going to kind of figure the best way to talk about this. We'll talk about the quote-unquote veteran guys, so the guys who've kind of been around a little bit first, kind of my overall thoughts on some of those guys. Then we'll talk about kind of some of the new guys, and then we'll talk about the blue line at the end, because the blue line, there's some intriguing pieces there. So let's start with, of course, all of our Swedish son, William Eklund. Only played on Friday, didn't play on Saturday, and I think that's, I would assume he will probably play on Monday's game. But Eklund, we asked him, can he be the best player out there? And I thought he was one of the best players out there. He had an assist and then scored in the shootout as well. Looked maybe trying a little bit too much, but the thing is, you can see he's fully healthy, and that Eklund speed that we know, he's good to go. It'll be intriguing to see his usage on Monday, just because I think with Arizona, a lot of those guys are where I was hoping to get maybe like your Coolies and some of these guys, but apparently a lot of these guys are actually heading down to down to Australia, because the Arizona Coyotes play the Kings in Australia to open up the preseason. So we may not get the juicy matchup there we're looking for, but can Eklund be the best player on the ice again on Monday and start his training camp off with a good start here as he tries to win a job? Actually, one of my favorite things that came out on, I think it was Thursday night, they had an Eklund interview, and he's got the eye of the tiger this year. I think he is ready to roll. And at this point, I would almost, unless something catastrophic happens in training camp, I think Eklund is going to be a opening night starter for the Sharks. I think he's going to be too good, and he's too important for the Sharks. And yes, I know there's a bajillion other veterans on the roster, but he's going to be one of their 6 best forwards. I have no doubt about it. So some of the other quote unquote veteran guys, so these are guys that kind of like the 2020 draft, guys who kind of been around for a little bit, but let's go with Thomas Bordeleau, who had himself a game on Saturday. 2 goals, both insane goals. The first goal where he's on the ice and tips a puck in, and then the second goal where he is like the worst, just a terrible angle shot. But he beats the goaltender with a very nice move, and then sets up Ozzy Wiesblatt with a nice assist. And we know the creativity from Bordeleau offensively, and we saw it tonight, or we saw it this weekend with him. It's going to be, can he do the other things, right? Can he back check and play defense and all that other stuff that coaches want you to see. But it was good to see Bordeleau show some of that creativity. It felt like at the end of the season, we really didn't get to, end of last season, we really didn't get to see it as much. And it's good to see Bordeleau kind of being back to doing Bordeleau things. So I still think Bordeleau starts with the Barracuda this season, but he's going to get a good chunk of NHL games at some point this year, because I think he's too good to be down in the AHL the whole season. So, but really liked his game offensively. It's a little tough with the defensively how to look at it, because there's not really a system, right? It's right now it's just go out there, let the guys go out there and kind of play. And the nice thing is playing with guys like Ozzy and Co, who you played the whole season with. You have a little bit of chemistry with them, even if maybe you aren't always on the same line. You still play with them in practice. You still kind of know these guys. You've been around them for a whole year now. So it was good to see Bordeleau again. Insane tip goal where he's literally on his butt, tips the goal in. Nice shot, though. That was Furlong. Nice shot, I believe, who had that. And then the other one, just the goalie did not expect him to take a shot, and he was like, I'm going to take a shot. So really like Bordeleau's game. I still think maybe starting in the AHL is probably the where he's going to go. And then another veteran guy who stood out was Ozzy Wiesblatt. And I know he's been kind of the lost or forgotten guy a lot with that 2020 draft class. You know, you look at Tristan Robbins, you look at Bordeleau, look at Gushin, all the other guys. But Ozzy, you can see a sense of confidence that he just maybe didn't have last year. And it's, you know, sometimes it is just the 6 inches between your ears with some guys. But, and again, playing against playing against young rookies and guys, tryout guys. And we know the Vegas system isn't the greatest pipeline right now, because, you know, they're trying to win Stanley Cups, and the Sharks are trying to kind of rebuild. So, but I mean, just, you saw Ozzy be, anytime he was on the ice, you kind of noticed him, and that's good to see. And hopefully that can kind of translate into this year, because I still think Ozzy can be a really effective, like, high-end third liner with, you know, a lot of energy. You know, his forecheck is ferocious. I think his skating is superb. And if he can, you know, kind of just figure things out this year, and I think that this could be a big year for Ozzy to kind of prove that first-round draft status. So, we'll save all the defensive guy. I'm kind of focusing on the forwards right now. So some of the other guys, I thought Co looked pretty solid too. Again, you can kind of see the work that he's been doing this off season. And I think we're going to see a nice bounce, a nice season from Brandon Co. Gushin also looks solid. Again, played kind of mostly Friday night, or played on Friday as well. I think Gushin, I've said all season, I think Gushin's going to be the leading goal scorer, or the leading scorer for the Barracuda this season. I think he's going to have a monster year in the AHL. Robbins looked good as well. You know, like a lot of these kind of veteran guys, you kind of know what you're getting with them, and it's about, can they put it together as they go into a training camp and go into, you know, the AHL season this year. So with a lot of these guys in the last year of their ELCs, it's going to be interesting to see kind of where, you know, kind of what the future holds for them. So, but I think overall, though, you know, before we get into some of the new guys and what are my thoughts on some of those guys, I think you got to feel pretty good about the way the Sharks looked in both these games, right? I think especially the beginning of the Kings game, they were dominating that game. And yes, you know, things kind of got a little out of hand, and some bad breaks for the Sharks that led to some goals. But overall, like, I think you have to feel good about where the prospect pool is going, especially now that you're kind of comparing it to some other ones. And the Kings prospect pool isn't where it used to be, and some of their guys like Brent Clark is going to be playing, you know, in the NHL, or I think he's hurt right now, actually. In Vegas, we know their prospect pool isn't, you know, the best one out there, because again, they're trying to win cups. But you got to feel good about the direction of the Sharks prospect pool, just because of, you know, playing against other young guys. They easily looked like great players. They look like the better team out there, and they put it to Vegas on Saturday night, especially without even all their A players. So you got to feel kind of good about the direction of the Sharks prospect pool. And you know, again, small sample size, all that stuff, but you got to take the wins where you can right now, especially what's probably going to be a lost season. So before we get into some of the young guys, we're going to talk about Musty. Going to talk about Halttunen. Going to talk about, you know, some of the kind of tryout guys and the AHL guys. Anthony Vincent gonna be a fan favorite really quick. So before we get into some of those guys, I do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our new friends over at Jace Medical. And if you want to just make sure you're taking care of yourself in the event of emergency, right? You never know when emergency is going to pop up, right? Especially we're, fire season, earthquakes, now apparently hurricanes we have to worry about here on the West Coast, or you never know, like emergencies pop up. Sometimes you get cut off. Sometimes you don't have the medicine you need. That's where Jace Medical comes in. They offer the Jace case. Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not just hoping to have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting those life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the lockdown code at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Promo code locked on. All right, so some of the young guys, Musty. I know he didn't really get on the score sheet, but that dude's going to be a problem. He's going to be an absolute monster coming up. So again, plenty of time. We don't want to, rush. I fully expect back in the OHL this year, probably the OHL again next year. But Quentin Musty has the makings of a future problem. I clipped if you're not following me on Twitter or X, whatever they call it nowadays, a forecheck where he, in the same shift, just retrieving just that puck retrieval skill from him. What you love to see, right? Just that big dude who's just going to go and get the puck, almost like I had this beagle when I was a kid. When I was younger. My wife and I, we got a beagle, of course, getting the dog before the kids. But that dog, when it came to getting food, I've never seen a dog be so smart and just nonstop, relentless. That's Quentin Musty trying to get that puck, just nonstop. I'm going to, as a kid, he's got that dog in him when it comes to getting the puck. Plenty, he's got stuff he's going to have to continue to work on, but you can see it, right? That him and Eklund and Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini or whoever the Sharks pick in this year's draft, he is you got to be feeling really good about the direction of the forward group coming up here. So really love Musty's game. I know he didn't really get much on the score sheet, but a lot of the little plays and just, again, that puck retrieval, that forecheck, that tenacity, gonna be a monster. Halttunen too. I thought Kasper Halttunen, he played both games as well. Definitely see the I'm gonna shoot mentality, and if maybe rein that back in. I think in the OHL, hopefully maybe rein that back in a little bit. Maybe you'll be a little bit smarter with those shots. But at the same time, right, his goal on Saturday night was basically just chip it towards the net, and he got lucky with it bouncing off somebody else. So you can see the shot. I think the Sharks they definitely an upside swing with Halttunen in the second round, but yeah, if he can kind of work on some of the other skills, I think he needs to work on his skating a little bit. But I really like where Halttunen's game's at, and I think he's going to be. Again, the Sharks don't have a lot of like natural goal scorers outside of Daniel Gushchin. I think Halttunen can kind of be one of those just natural goal scorers that the Sharks are going to be looking to add, and as they kind of fill out their roster here. So. Some of the other young forwards who I really liked, by young, I mean guys who just haven't played as much. Bradley Merrick, who again the Sharks they was a tryout guy at the end of last year, added, and I liked him. He looks like a potential, kind of AHL guy, but kind of a third line AHL guy. I really liked his games this weekend as well. Anthony Vincent. There might be a little something there. Just again, even if he just becomes a Barracuda fan favorite type of player, again, the kind of the tenacity, he has a couple really, really great chances. One of them setting up by Halttunen as he came out of the penalty box and kind of chipped it to him and just kind of ran out of space on a breakaway. But I think Anthony Vincent's going to have himself a really, really nice season for the Barracuda this year. Physical, I think he can score. And I think he's going to kind of play a bunch of different situations for the Barracuda. So, or he maybe plays in the ECHL with the Wichita Thunder, but I think Anthony Vincent's going to be a pretty solid addition for this Barracuda team again, for a tryout guy who's going to be probably playing, a lot of kind of middle 6 or bottom 6 minutes for the Barracuda. But I mean, that's free money type of player for that, who's going to contribute for you. So, I thought he looked pretty solid. Ben Allison had a couple little flashes here and there as well. But I think among the forwards, you got to feel pretty good about some of these guys. It was nice to see also Mitchell Russell, who missed basically all of last year, but a couple games in the ECHL. He had some pretty solid games as well. Again, I think Russell's probably going to be more of the same thing with Anthony Vincent. Maybe a little bit more skilled than Vincent, not as much tenacity, but I think he's going to be a pretty solid contributor for the Barracuda going through this game. So before we get to the D, let's talk about the goalies, since both those guys are new guys. I think right now, I think it has to be Chrona before Romanov. I liked Chrona's game a little bit more than I like Romanov. I know Chrona didn't have this. He was very bored, I guess, in the first period. I think Vegas only like 3 shots or something like that in the first period. But at the end of the game, Vegas made a push, and I thought he had some really, really solid saves in this kind of second half of that game. And Romanov, again, I know he gave up a couple more. I don't know if he looks. I think just Chrona's a little bit further along, which is fine, right? I mean, Chrona's played a lot of big time hockey at University of Denver. It's kind of what you expected. Nick Nollenberger kind of mentioned it a little bit, where it seems like Chrona is going to be, at least right now, heading into training camp, the number 2 behind Eetu Makiniemi. So I would expect Romanov to probably start the season in the ECHL with the Wichita Thunder. But again, we saw last year with Straussman, right? Kind of that bouncing back and forth. But Chrona, really, really solid debut at least. So again, made some nice saves, kept his head in the game, especially when you didn't really do much the first period. And the one goal, a little bit tough there, but you're not going to stop them all the time. So, but yeah, right now, I think Chrona's got the kind of the slight edge going into training camp for that battle spot. But we'll see, right? It's a long training camp, plenty more preseason games. I'm sure these guys will get some action throughout the preseason. So, because again, that's I think 1 through 3 is pretty settled. It's that 4 or 5 for the goalie spots, right? So it's going to be Blackwood, Kapokak, and Eetu Makiniemi, and then 4 or 5 between Chrona and Romanov. And we'll probably see Mason Bopet on Monday. So I'm really intrigued to see how he looks, especially after I thought he looked pretty solid in camp last year, but then had a really weird season, played terribly again with Spokane, got traded to then Winnipeg Ice. And a little hard when you're playing behind literally one of the best teams in the CHL, the kind of with the goalies, right? Is it how much is it you or how much it is the guys in front of you? So I think this big bounce back year hopefully for Mason Bopet, and we'll see how he plays on Monday. So before we start looking at the D, and Gannon Laroque is back. Need to take a quick break. Talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. And if you want to snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you think about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, more. Player props are always really fun, especially just betting on guys that score touchdowns, maybe some of your favorite players. Christian McCaffrey scoring a touchdown is always a fun thing to bet on because he's probably going to do it. And it's fun to watch Christian McCaffrey do cool things like score touchdowns. Maybe you like Tua Tagovailoa and whatever, his over-under on yards this season, or Tyreek Hill to maybe go for 2,000 yards this season, which he is currently on pace for. Whatever it is that you want to bet on, FanDuel has got you covered. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's start. Let's finish up with the D. And I was very impressed with pretty much all the defensemen these two games. We'll start with Gannon Laroque, who missed basically all of last season with that hip injury, right? Came back, played 4 games, scored 5 points in those, and then was out for the rest of the season. He looked great. Of course, he played Friday, had a goal and assist, and you could just see like the skating looks back. I think Gannon Laroque he wants to be a pro this year. I think he's going to be one of those very, very, very last guys where the Sharks are really going to have to make a decision with him. It'll be interesting if they want to maybe send him to Wichita, because he's 20, so he can either go back into Victoria, or he can become a professional this year if he wants to, if the Sharks want him to play in San Jose, or maybe they could send him to Wichita. I know there's a lot of kind of dudes right now on the roster for the Barracuda defensively, but I think Gannon Laroque, if he has a really strong camp, I think you have to think really long and hard about keeping him in San Jose, just because I think he's going to be special. I think he's going to be a special player. Maybe again, not like an Erik Karlsson type of player, but I think he's going to have some offense. I think he's going to have enough defense. I think he's going to be good defensively, and I think if he can continue to grow his offensive game that we saw 2 years ago after the Sharks drafted him, or I guess a year ago, whatever, continue to do that, I think the Sharks might have found something really special with Pebbles. So I'm hoping he plays in San Jose. I really want to see him in San Jose this year. I think we'll see what they do. I know the Sharks have very much overripened their prospects and missing an entire season last year. Again, I think if he had played, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. But if he's ready, I think you just let him play. He's good. And so Shakir Mukhamadullin, really good these 2 games as well. Just kind of smooth, right? Especially with a guy that big, smooth skater. Still is going to have to kind of clean up some of the defensive stuff. And I think for him, it's finding him the right partner. But I think you had to be feeling really good about his trajectory this year. And I don't know if I still think he plays majority of the year in the AHL, but good start for him, right? And I know he's played a bunch of games in the KHL, but still that transition from, a little bit different game over there in Russia to North America, where it's a little bit more physical here, a little bit more condensed. But I think he's at least a solid start and was one of the impressive guys on the back end. Another very impressive guy, again, Henry Thrun, only played on Friday. You know exactly what you're getting with Henry Thrun, and he's going to be interesting, kind of another one of those bubble guys. And I think it's going to take a very strong camp for him to kind of maybe jump some guys, but he's going to be playing NHL games at some point this year as well. And then who are some of the other guys that I really liked? Artem Girev, the guy, again, is going to be another one of those fan favorite guys, but I thought he looked good defensively. And then if you need him to throw some haymakers, that dude will, that fight he got into on Friday, where they were chucking haymakers at each other. Girev, he's going to be, again, if they can send him to Wichita and keep him in San Jose, we'll see with him. But, dude's tough. Valtteri Pulli, very impressed with him. Again, another big guy, 6'6". But again, kind of like Shakir Mukhamadullin, just super smooth out there, especially for a big guy. And I think he said he's going to stay in San Jose this year if he doesn't make the Sharks. I think he's going to be a really nice addition for the Barracuda, who he did score pretty well over in the Liga in Finland last year. And I think you could see though that the dude does not give up an inch in the paint there, like in front in the crease and keeping guys out. He's more than willing to kind of mix it up and keep guys out of the paint. And that's as the Sharks kind of revamp their blue line. I still think they need to add a special player, but they have a lot of intriguing guys who I think are kind of well on their way to being NHL guys at some point. So overall, though, again, like I said, the blue line I thought looked really, really good. I know there isn't a lot of structure, but Cagnoni didn't really show too much on Friday. I think he was kind of a late addition. Furlong, I thought you could see a little bit there. He had that great shot that Bordeleau tipped, but I think some of these little bit older guys like Pulli and Laroque, Mukhamadullin, like you got to feel really good about where the blue line is now compared to where it was, 12 months, 18 months ago. So yeah, I think really solid start for the Sharks rookies. They play again on Monday morning. Probably won't cover too much of it on the next episode. We'll see if anything kind of flashes, but going to spend Tuesday where we're going to talk about kind of the state of the Sharks, right? I did the entire Pacific Division where we looked at the state of the franchise. Go to kind of turn the mirror, look at the state of the franchise of the Sharks, and answer those questions I've been asking all my, kind of all my friends and what their teams are. So we're going to look at where the Sharks are. If you're just getting back, right, kind of took the summer off, just trying to get back. Tomorrow's going to be a great episode to kind of refresh and catch up on where we are as a franchise in San Jose. Plenty of other stuff as training camp kicks off this week. So make sure you guys keep it locked in here at Locked On Sharks, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. You can also subscribe to or follow the show along on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter and Threads at MyFryhole. Until tomorrow, again, guys, back to 5 episodes a week. Bye, friends.